Hello, everyone, and welcome to Deaf Services and the Deaf Society's very exciting collaboration with Apple TV+. We have a panel today from the CODA film. I'm Vanessa, and I will be your co-host this morning with another co-host by the name of... Hello, everyone. My name is Daniel Haitley. I'm a CODA myself, and I'm thrilled to be here this morning co-hosting with Vanessa. I will introduce the panelists with us this morning. Firstly, we have Sian Hayder, who is the writer and director. Our acting team is Marley Matlin, who was the mother in CODA. We have Troy Kotzer, who was the father in CODA.
Hi, everyone.
And we have Daniel Durant, who was the son. Welcome. So we will ask a series of questions. The first question is directed at Marley. When you were first sent the script, what appealed you to the role? What made you want to get involved and be in the film?
Hello, everyone in Australia, by the way. Good to see you all. And to all the people who are watching our broadcast and the panel. Thank you for having us. It's really very much appreciated. Well, when I first read the script, I absolutely fell in love with it because of the fact that the story and the dynamics of the family, and particularly having three deaf roles carrying a film, appealed to me. It was very exciting. And I knew that this was something that I had to do, that I had to shoot. And I was very blessed to be able to have been in it.
Fantastic. So I would like to ask Daniel the next question. When you received the script, I'm quite interested in knowing the process. Did you pick up the script and then translate it yourself into ASL, or did you have an ASL consultant who worked with you in translating the script from English to ASL? And was it flexible or was it fixed in terms of the script? Were you able to adapt it to your needs, or what was the process behind it?
Well, before filming started, about 2 weeks beforehand, the cast got together and we met with our two wonderful ASL masters, Alexandria Wales and Anne Tomasetti. They're both wonderful ASL masters. And so we went through the script with them. We tried things out in sign language. We tried to figure this all out because, as we were filming, we're a family, we're a working family, we're on a boat, we're fisher people. We were trying to imagine if we were this actual family every day out on sea, what would this look like? What kind of sign language would be used? What would be connected to the boat? What verbs would be used? We just had like many lengthy discussions about this. And it just started from there. We took the script apart and worked through it. And during filming, sometimes Troy is so great at improv. He's a wonderful improv actor. And sometimes he could add some things as we're going. He'd put a line in here, a line in there. And of course, it'd be up to Sian to say, oh, I love that. Let's keep it. Or no, Troy, please don't say that again. Let's get rid of that. And we would go through many iterations of this, and some lines we kept and were flexible with, and some lines we got rid of and stayed to the script. But I think, the really important part of this was having the ASL masters always there on set with us for constant consultation, to keep eyes on what we were doing, to modify lines if needed, to keep notes about what was happening, to keep the director informed. So that was really the great process we went through.
Fantastic. Sian, we wanted to ask you, we know it was very important to ensure the deaf community were a part of the process, to ensure that there was that deaf lens across the production of the film. Can you share with us what that looked like?
Sure. Well, it started for me at the script stage. So before I even started writing, I felt like there was a huge amount of research and education that I needed to have, particularly as a hearing person who was coming in from outside of the community. And I felt strongly that if I was going to be representing this culture that was not my own, I had to surround myself with people who had lived it, who could collaborate with me and be my deaf eyes on the script, my deaf eyes on set, all along the process. So at the beginning, it was really about having, CODA consultants, deaf consultants reading the script, lots of conversations as I was embarking on writing, lots of reading, lots of, going to Deaf West to see those collaborations between hearing actors and deaf actors and how they were doing it. That was the first time that I saw Troy Kotzer was on stage at Deaf West in an Edward Albee play. And I was like, that guy is amazing. And I need him for my movie. And so it was really an education as I started writing. But then I always knew that the script was only going to be a blueprint because I was writing the script in English and I was writing the script largely with a hearing gaze. And I knew that it was going to be something that was going to have to evolve once we were on set. And so the first step, as Daniel was saying, was when Alexandria Wales got involved and she sat with me with the script and we went line by line through the script and we talked about the meaning of the lines, because as we all know, spoken English is so different from ASL and there is not a one-to-one translation. And there were lines that I'd written or moments I'd written that didn't fit with deaf culture, that felt like they were coming from a hearing perspective. And so in order to make the script really authentic, those English lines needed to change. And we would work together on the signs to, sometimes she would show me a sign and I would go, you know what, I want something that feels, angrier in that moment. Let's find a more dynamic, sharper sign. I remember one time we had a line that was, do you want me to die here? And the sign for die is sort of a little passive. And instead we changed it to you're killing me, because killing was a more active sign. And it felt like the actress could channel rage better. So we kind of did that process with the script where we were going through every piece of dialogue and talking about the lines and doing the translation of the songs as well. And then when my actors came on, we got to kind of throw it all out again and explore together. So our rehearsal process became almost a language lab where everyone was bringing their own choices to the table. So Troy is an incredibly inventive, creative signer. He uses sign language in a way that I have never seen anybody use sign language. So Troy is going to bring Troy to it, and he's going to find all of these amazing elements to Frank that fit so well with the humor, with, his rhythms as a person, with his jokes. And then there was a lot of work to also become a family. So how do we get everybody feeling like they are signing like they're from Gloucester? Because there are regional signs in Gloucester, which none of us knew until we showed up there, the name sign for Gloucester, or these kind of very specific, signs for different fish, or the elements on the fishing boat that were so specific. And then how do we get everybody working together? And my actors were so invaluable. And so then the script changed and again became this like living, breathing thing that we all got to find together. So I'm incredibly grateful to have had these collaborators.
Thank you. So I'd like to ask you, Troy, in relation to the previous question, were there any scenes where you felt that you had remembered your own lived experience from a scene in the film? Or were there any scenes where you felt, oh, I never experienced this in my life, where you couldn't relate?
Okay. First of all, thank you so much for having us to be a part of this here in Australia. I want to say hi to all the kangaroos out there. Hello. as I read the script for the first time, look, I grew up in Arizona. It's all desert. Kind of like Australia, the hot sun. And I had never seen a whale in person. That doesn't exist in Arizona. And so reading the script and going to Gloucester, everything changed out on the ocean. And as I read this script, as Sean said, it was really a blueprint or a guide to tell the story. And on stage, we always feel like it's really important to follow your gut, your instinct. As a deaf actor, your reactions, how you can present those. And as I read it, I was really pleased to have the opportunity to talk with Sean and make those adjustments. And she was very receptive to do several takes for different scenes. So we had the opportunity to go with different options. And sometimes I really tried to enhance what was just the English print. In sign language, I could give it so much more. Things that the hearing audience had never been exposed to before. And we have so many underlying secrets. We have a rich language that we can play around with. And so it was just amazing. We worked so well as a team. We had trust, open minds, and it all led to this great product in the end to tell that story.
Fantastic, thank you. So my next question is for Marley. After the film was released, people were so excited to watch it. There was a lot of talk in the deaf community. There was some conversations around the CODA character Ruby not being a CODA herself in real life. What were your views on that, Marley?
I'm always, but bottom line is when we were shooting the film, I tried to envision when this was done, all of it put together, all of it edited and presented to an audience and on the theater, on the screen for all to see. I envisioned everyone being so excited because I knew it would be terrific. I just knew it would be a wonderful film because of the different perspectives that were presented in the film. A family, a deaf culture, American Sign Language, fishing, CODA life, music, singing, leaving home. The film worked on so many different levels. And that was important to me to understand. Having been in this film industry for 35 years, I've had the opportunity to see a lot of things. And really, the one thing that really stood out was the lack of representation of deaf actors in screen. I've seen deaf characters, but not played by deaf actors. And if we did see deaf actors, it was only occasionally. And I began to understand that it was important for me to make noise, to say, hey, look, we have deaf actors out here. We have artists who are makeup artists and directors, and it's important to have them represented on the screen. It was extremely important. Now, with CODA coming out, people were like, oh gosh, where? And they realized, okay, there's deaf actors. At the same time, if you're talking specifically about the CODA experience, it really began to, I mean, we're talking about authenticity here and a lot of other things and issues having to do with, that came up as a result of the pandemic. People being at home, people having the chance to sort of think of things, think of issues, things that haven't been resolved, things that needed to be discussed and have conversations about. So now if we're talking about this one issue of Ruby, played by the brilliant Emilia Jones, who is British. She's 17 years old when we shot the film. She had to sing, she had to learn to sign, she had to learn to interpret, she had to learn to fish, she had to learn everything. So what 17-year-old was able to bring all those skills to a screen and to be able to deliver them as amazingly as she did on the screen and convince audiences. So my perspective of all this, that the fact that she wasn't authentically a CODA in real life, that there are lots of hearing people who played roles and have taken from us deaf roles without the opportunity for this to happen, for us to play. Again, deafness is not a costume. It is a culture for us to portray. Acting, so it brings the question, what is acting all about? You're right, but you cannot play disabled. And the issue of authenticity, I don't think necessarily applies to CODAs. We're talking about disability representation, persons of color representation, and deafness representation. Yes, there are CODAs out there who could have played the role. There are real life policemen, there are real life teachers, there are real life doctors who could play the roles. And we play our roles. To cast a CODA, I think that's a Sean reply specifically, because I know she saw CODAs, but yet it's, again, being a hearing person is not a culture the same way it is as a deaf person. Amelia worked very hard. She portrayed it and it worked for me. And it worked for a lot of people too. And I don't know, Sean, if you want to answer this question as well.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that there are a lot of complex feelings around it, because I think CODAs, while they are hearing people, feel very much a part of the deaf community. And there is a real identity that comes along with that. At the same time, it is a hearing person. And so the reality is that when I set out to look for the role of Ruby, I looked for a real CODA. You know, I was looking for that actress to fill so many things that she needed to do. She needed to sing so exceptionally well that a music teacher would stop in their tracks and go, oh my goodness, you have to do this. You have a gift. It had to be undeniable. So I was looking for a singing voice that was absolutely undeniable. I was looking for a 17-year-old, and I wanted someone who was authentically 17, because I hate in films when you have a 25-year-old playing 17 and you're going, that person is not in high school. I needed someone who was going to go out on fishing boats and learn how to look like she'd been doing that her whole life and be comfortable out at sea, pulling in the fish and running the nets. This person had to do comedy and drama and was in every single scene in the film. So we did a big search. I saw over 100 girls for that role. I really looked. I tried to find a real CODA. You know, I couldn't find the voice, the singing voice in that CODA. I couldn't find. So it was ultimately a choice that we made to have Amelia play that role. And she worked really hard, you know, to get up to speed on her sign language so she would look authentic. And I think from everything that I've heard, she does. So I think it was a choice that we made. And I agree with Marley. You know, I think it's hard in all these conversations about authentic representation where, you know, Troy is not a real fisherman. And I am sure that some of the fishermen watching the movie might go, you know, I don't feel like he's representing what that is to be a fisherman. So I think everyone has their identity and their community. I get that being a CODA is different because it's a culture and it's a lived experience. So I honor that. And I really tried to find it and I just couldn't. And maybe now with all the publicity of the film, I could try again and maybe I could find that girl and maybe she's out there, but we looked really hard and Amelia was, you know, the best person that we found for the role.
I can jump in here. What Marley and Sean have said, I agree wholeheartedly. That aside, why I was excited is that this was historic. You know, you usually had in silent film, there was more access, right? But then people didn't really know about CODA. They just think about the musical meaning and then they see the movie and that brings it to the forefront and it increases the awareness of what a CODA is, that there are so many real life CODAs and they have this identity that they're proud of. And when you meet them, they might say, I'm a CODA. And now people have a reference. They know what they're talking about. The awareness has been increased. And this is the beginning. This new generation, we'll see where it takes us, but it's very exciting. And I want you to really think of the big picture here. I think that's important to keep in mind.
To jump in, I mean, I think we also had many CODAs working on the movie. We had from the script stage, you know, I think I had 4 CODA consultants working on the script with me. We had CODA interpreters on set. Heather Rossi was one of them. Jack Jason was another one, both CODAs themselves. Amelia was in constant conversation with trying to represent that experience in an authentic way, trying to emotionally get inside that character and honor the CODA experience. Again, like the deaf experience, every CODA experience is different. You know, there are CODAs who grow up with ASL as their first language. There are CODAs who don't know how to sign. There are all sorts of CODA experiences. So I think also the idea that just because someone was a CODA, they would be able to
That was
represent
mine.
this
Yeah.
CODA was also not exactly true. You know, I think every CODA has a different perspective and a different lived experience.
That is very true. There are many experiences. I'll never forget the moment I was involved in a play with different hearing actors, and they knew how to fingerspell. They were in their 30s, and I thought, okay, maybe they studied ASL, basic fingerspelling at a university, but I found out that they were a CODA. So tell me about it. It very much is an individual experience.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your response. That was a great conversation. So the next question I would like to ask Daniel, you filmed on different sets and you arrived at the CODA film. And what was your experience on the set of CODA? Was there more deaf people involved? Sean was saying before that there was a lot of CODAs involved and a lot of deaf people in different roles. So how would you share that experience with us being on the CODA set?
I mean, it was fun. It was so fun. I mean, we had the other deaf cast members there. We were able to converse and chat and play jokes and just enjoy each other's company. And I will never forget the first day when I showed up on set. I mean, there were like cast and crew all over the place, and I didn't know anybody around. And of course, I was kind of new. I mean, I knew who Troy and Marley were. I had worked with them in the past. So I saw them and said hello, met the director, Sean, got to know them. And we had some interpreters who themselves were CODAs, as was mentioned. So they already had a lot of deaf culture within them. And it was great to be welcomed into that environment. As we started filming day after day, you could see the crew who at first were, you know, a little nervous. They didn't know how to deal with deaf people. They weren't sure what to do. But as we went on, they quickly learned how to communicate and sign. It didn't have to be specifically ASL, but they were gesturing. You know, for example, a cameraman would do this and do these kind of gestures. Then he would direct me over and I'd stand where I needed to go. It wasn't actual ASL. But then by the end of the day, like all the crew just, I mean, we just were a family. We were connected. We enjoyed working with each other. And to be honest, I mean, the CODA experience is like, I think the best cast and group of people I've worked with. I mean, especially with Troy and Marley and Amelia, all of us like as the actors. I mean, it was like a magical group. It was like we had chemistry already there from day one. And, you know, at nighttime, Marley would cook us dinner. And just, you know, FYI, she is a wonderful, amazing cook. I don't know if you know that or not. We'd go to her house and she'd cook for us and we'd chat. And we would just increase and grow that chemistry. So I feel like it was great. I mean, I feel like I really loved working with the other deaf actors. But the hearing casts were great too. And I've had many wonderful experiences in the past, but this is like, you know, talking to everybody in my first language was magical.
And if I might add, I've worked in Hollywood a long time. It's been 35 years, and I've had an opportunity to see a great deal in the hearing community, and I'm accustomed with working with an interpreter. But I felt lonely at the end of the day. For example, when we would go to lunch, or we would have a dinner break, or we were in some sort of pause between scenes, and people would be talking away, and I would have my interpreter by my side, and yet trying to, I mean, of course, I got involved in conversations more or less, but and at the same time, even when it came to lunch, I would often go into my trailer and with my interpreter, and we would each eat lunch on our own. And on very rare occasions would I actually sit with the other hearing actors, and not to put them down in any way, but that was just the situation, is how it was. But on this set and this time, I felt at home. I really felt at home. I was on the set. I was in my element. We were in our element, and we were very familiar with each other in our language, and it felt freeing. It was liberating. It really was.
Yes, when we came together as a family, not even with the camera, we would always joke around and kid one another. And we'd have food and we'd make faces with our food on our plates and to try to get a laugh, right?
Only
I'm
Troy.
trying, when I'm behind the camera, I want to feed into it. It's collaborative, it's fun. We know we want to give our best to the film and to tell the story, to make it as real life as possible, instead of just doing things by rote and doing your damn line. No, no, no.
And Amelia, I have to say, when we first met her, she herself, being from England, had to transition from a British accent to an American accent, and so many other skills she had to bring to the table. But I was so impressed. But I have to say, when we first met with the cast and the producer and director, we, the three of us as deaf actors, embraced her immediately, so that we would become a family right off the bat, without an interpreter. Just put her in and have her, learn right there on the spot. And even when we ordered through the waiter, we made sure that she experienced the real life experience of interpreting for us as a deaf family, and she learned very fast.
I mean, I did too. And honestly, the culture on set definitely felt like ASL took over the culture of our set in a really beautiful way. And as Daniel was saying, at first the camera operators were like, how do I tell Troy to move over? And it was like, you're a person, Troy's a person, you guys figure it out. And to watch the crew start to sign, be hungry to learn sign. Amelia and I, were signing with the cast. Sign language started to be used on set when there were no deaf actors on set. So when we were out, Amelia and I were shooting on the quarry, and she was at the top of the cliff and I was down on the water. And I could, instead of using a walkie-talkie, we could sign back and forth, and I could give her notes as an actor. And actually, she was giving notes to Ferdia, the other actor. So I would sign a note to Amelia, and then she would tell Ferdia what the note was. So, it's a brilliant set language. It actually feels like every crew would benefit from learning ASL, because you can chat while you're rolling, you can keep talking to each other while the camera's going. It's amazing, like over distances, when we were working out on the fishing boats, my AD and I were signing back and forth to each other. So it actually was a beautiful thing that instead of, the hearing culture being the dominant culture on set, deaf culture became the dominant culture on set. And it was very beneficial to the way that the set ran.
So a truly bilingual, bicultural environment.
It was priceless.
Absolutely. To be on the set of a bilingual and bicultural environment just sounds incredible. And are there any thoughts about CODA 2? Is there a second film in development?
Yes, please.
I mean, we've talked a lot about, is there something that exists in the TV space with this family? I mean, nobody wants to see this family go away, including me. I mean, I ended up going to Gloucester last summer, and I was walking around the town, and I kept feeling like I was going to run into the Rossies somewhere. Like I felt like, oh, I'm just going to be at the supermarket and the Rossies are going to be shopping, because they feel so real, and they feel like they exist and that they're still living in the town. So certainly my brain is still thinking about that family, and maybe we will find another project to but either way, I want to work with these actors again, and I'm inspired by them. I want to create for them. I feel, that you have three brilliant actors here who don't work nearly enough. And so I'm constantly thinking about projects and ideas to be able to work together again, because it was such a brilliant experience.
Maybe the Rossies in Australia.
There you go.
Sounds
That's a great
perfect.
idea.
I love it. Absolutely.
Or maybe we have 10 CODA grandchildren
It's
and have them do the fishing business.
sounds good, Troy. Thank you so much for joining us today and for these two questions and answers. I would like to ask our CEO, Brett Casey, to come and say a quick hello. Hello, everyone.
Hi, Brett.
Hi.
My name's Brett Casey. I'm a deaf person and I'm the Chief Executive Officer for Deaf Services and the Deaf Society. And we have Brent Phillips, who's our Chief Impact Officer. I'd like to thank all four of you and Apple TV for your time. We've thoroughly enjoyed this Q&A and our time with you all and this conversation. Deaf Services and the Deaf Society provide opportunities for the deaf community in Australia, and the film CODA itself did that in spades. It provided a different viewpoint for our hearing community, our deaf community, and it's just been absolutely brilliant. And it's fantastic to know that it's out there and there are millions of people watching it. So we have an open invitation for you to come down to Australia as well. I'll make sure I've got a kangaroo party ready for Troy as well.
All right.
Amazing, amazing.
Thank you. Thank you for being part of our journey. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes, thanks for having us here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You
Love
can
to
do
everybody
both.
in Australia. Love to everybody.
Yes,
Thank
love
you
you
all for
all.
joining
Love
us.
you all.
Love you. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone.
Like you. Love you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Oh, sometimes I get a good feeling, yeah. Yeah. I get a feeling that I never had before.
You're the girl with the deaf family?
Yeah. I just want to tell you right now.
And you sing. Interesting.
Something's got a hold on me here.
What are you doing next year?
Working with my family.
Let me tell you now, I've got a feeling, I feel so strange. Everything about me seems to have changed.
I've been coaching for Berklee College of Music. I can help you get a scholarship.
I won't let go. I said, oh,
I want to do this.
There are plenty of pretty voices with nothing to say. Do you have something to say?
You will be required to have a hearing individual on board at all times.
I can't stay with you for the rest of my life. I've never done anything without my family before.
all that I need to get by.
Rated PG-13.